Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of DC Studios' Peacemaker, Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Ignorance is Chris. This show is found on HBO Max for your viewing pleasure. It stars John Cena, Jennifer Holland, Danielle Brooks, and a plethora of others. This show is brought to us by the great mind of of James Gunn, and I got to give the man his props, bro. He is doing God's work over there in DC, and on this season so far, this has been a good season 2 for Peacemaker. I've deeply enjoyed it thus far. I enjoyed Superman. I like the direction that this cinematic universe is heading in. And this episode 6, really launched us into the universe as a whole. You wouldn't think watching Peacemaker that this will be the catalyst for the future of the DCU. But here we stand. Now, James Gunn has said in the past, before the show or this season premiered, that episodes 6 through 8 were going to be major spoilers and major implications in the DCU moving forward. So I was highly anticipating what we were going to get in episode 6 of this season. So here we are. Leading up to this, we left off in episode 5 where Chris, aka Peacemaker, he decided that he's gonna go off into this dimension where he is celebrated as a hero, where he is in a relationship with Harcourt. He's in the dimension where his father and his brother are still alive and they're a loving family, and it's so on and so forth. It's basically everything that he dreamed for, everything that he hoped for in life, and here it is in this dimension. And he decided at the end of episode 5 to travel to this dimension and stay, being as though he killed that dimension's Peacemaker in episode 1. So that's where we left off. We find the 11th Street gang going after him, deciding that they're gonna go and bring Chris back, and that's where we begin this episode. This opens up with Chris. He's enjoying life, his newfound fame in this alternate reality, and meanwhile, you have Harcourt, you have Adebayo, you have Economos and Vigilante. They figure out how to use this little device to hop over into dimensions. And so as they get to Chris's house in this reality, at the same time, you have Rick Flag in our reality, or the canon reality, and he's frustrated because now he finds out that Economos and Harcourt have gone AWOL. And so it's like, okay, my plan didn't work. Now my back is against the wall. And when you get desperate, you do desperate things. You take desperate measures. And Rick Flag Jr., Rick Flag Sr. Does that in this episode that we're going to touch on in a few minutes. But I just want to say that it felt good to get confirmation on a theory that not just me, but a lot of fans of Peacemaker have had this season. In this dimension, this was the whitest dimension on Earth. You didn't see not one black person, Asian person, nothing. You hadn't seen any people of color in this dimension. Normally, it's something that's in the background you really don't pay much attention to. But as they kept hopping over, or Chris kept hopping over into that dimension, it started to really show itself more. It just didn't seem right. This place, you ever been somewhere, or let me put it like this. you ever realize where things are going way too perfect and something in the back of your mind says, wait, something just ain't right. You just looking around like, man, this is going far too well. This is truly too good to be true type situation. That's where we at with this. It was just too perfect for Chris. Too perfect. And so you knew something was sketchy about this reality or this alternate reality that he was in. Well, we got confirmation later on in this episode that yes, it was too good to be true. This episode was directed by James Gunn himself, along with writing. He wrote all the episodes, but he only directed 3 episodes this season. I think the first episode, this one, and the very last one he's going to direct as well, or technically had already directed. But yeah, he directed this one, and I can understand why, because there's a lot in this episode, even though it's only like 35 minutes long. I don't even think it was it 30 minutes. I don't know. It was a very short episode, but a lot was flushed out here. Just to hop back into the episode here as we recap. Okay, the 11th Street Gang, they decide that they're going to open the door. They're opening the door. All the while, Vigilante, who has kind of taken a back seat this season, been more of a comic relief, at least more than he was in season 1. He was the comic relief, but he was still Vigilante. This season so far has been nothing but comedy. I'm not complaining because he's funny. He's been hilarious this season. I've enjoyed him, but I'm still fiending for Vigilante to go full Vigilante at some point this season. And it looks like it's coming soon. It looks like we're about to get it very soon. But he is obsessed with going into this reality and finding another version of himself. He wants to find another version of himself so bad that his love for Chris has taken a back seat, something that I never thought I would witness on this show. But his obsession with finding the alternate Vigilante has taken a hold of him, and he is full in on it. So they walk through the portal. They come across that alien thing that's throwing away these cat looking things. I don't know. It's random as I don't know what, but it's James Gunn. Yeah, it's not random. I don't know what it's setting up, but it's not random. But they run across that thing. They do find the door that our Chris went in. They enter, and Harcourt, as they all ventured through this house here, they just in one room in the house, and immediately they knew, like, oh, well, I understand why he stayed. It's so much bigger and grander and upscale that none of them has experienced in our reality, or their reality, I should say. And so they looking around, looking at the trophies and the keys to the city and all this other good stuff, and they're like, oh, no wonder he stayed. And then our Harcourt discovers the picture of Peacemaker 2, I'll say, I guess, and Harcourt number 2, and it dawns on her, her saying it without saying it, like, okay, I see why. That's why he wants to stay here, to be with her, or me, her, or whatever. And just then, Chris's brother comes in and sees Harcourt, and he think it's their Harcourt. So he's explaining it to her, like, wait, I thought you was with Chris. I thought y'all went to Argus and blah blah blah. And it's just that awkward conversation where she's trying to act like she know him and this, that, and the third, and it was just awkward, but it was funny. It was acted really well by Harcourt and not Harcourt, but the character Harcourt, but Jennifer Holland and David Denman. who plays the brother. I thought that was a cool little scene. And so he offers to bring her to Argus and this, that, and the third. So she agrees, much to the dismay of Adebayo and Economos and Vigilante. They're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so she goes off with Chris's brother. So leaving them behind. All the while, you have Vigilante still obsessed with finding his alternate self. He ventures off to go find his alternate self. And so now you're left with Adebayo and Economos. They're in the house. Eagly pops up, destroys the kitchen, eating the food and whatnot. And so they're cleaning up, and Adebayo decides to go take a walk, just to get out the house before she goes crazy. She decides to take a walk, and I'll leave that part right there. We'll come back to that later. But we go to the Rick Flag of it all. I can't contain it no more. Rick Flag, he asked to meet with an inmate at Belle Reeves. And we know that Belle Reeves is a known DC Comics staple. It is the prison of DC Comics. There's Arkham and there's Belle Reeve. Those are the two biggies in the DC universe in comics. And so he goes to Belle Reeves. You see him sitting behind the glass with the phone, and you see an inmate start to enter, walking with a cane. He sits down, and it is none other than Lex Luthor. It is Nicholas Hoult himself cameoing in this show. I was smiling ear to ear. I was so happy to see that. Out of all the cameos, I was expecting David Cornsweet to probably pop up as Superman, which is still a possibility. There's 2 more episodes left. We seen the Justice Gang in the first episode, and who knows who else is probably gonna pop up, in the next 2 episodes. But out of all of those characters, I did not expect Lex Luthor. I really didn't. And when it happened, common sense came in. Like, of course you would go to Lex Luthor. We leaving from Superman, he created a pocket universe. And so who else would know about pocket universes but Lex Luthor? And it was like, okay. Why didn't I think of that? I'm pretty sure all of you listening, I'm gonna give y'all all the credit in the world, because y'all probably knew that. I didn't. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I really did. It blew my mind. I was so happy to see him, and it's even more exciting to watch a version of Lex Luthor that curses and talk about people getting sodomized, or these metahumans sodomizing people in prison. It is something. It is something to behold. I don't know why I needed that in my life, but for some strange reason, they brought me joy just to hear that, because who would have thunk it? I would imagine Belle Reeves is like any average prison, where that stuff takes place. So just because it's a metahuman prison don't mean that it doesn't take place. But it was good to see him. Now, what James Gunn had said before this season dropped, he said that there were going to be major implications, right? So what are the major implications? Well, it was said tonight. It was said in this episode. Just a few weeks ago, James Gunn announced that the next film in the quote-unquote Superman saga is Man of Tomorrow. Now, Man of Tomorrow is going to be released in 2027. It will have Superman, but he will be teaming up with Lex Luthor. The artwork was released, and we got to see Lex Luthor in that green and purple suit that we've seen in the comics. Theories are that they will team up to face Brainiac. It would be cool if that's the case. What other reason why Superman would team up with Lex Luthor? Brainiac. You know, there's no other reason. And so you have that on the horizon. So you ask yourself the question, at least I did when he announced this. Well, at the end of Superman, Lex Luthor went to prison. He almost destroyed the world, let alone Metropolis. But he almost ripped the world in half with this pocket universe. And so he said it in this episode that the judge told him he'll be in prison for what he said, 365 years or something like that. And so how are we going to lead up to that team up? You know, we just going to have a movie where Pop, they're together. You gotta explain it. Well, it was the seeds were planted. I'm not saying it was fully explained, but the seeds were planted tonight when Lex Luthor and Rick Flag Sr. were having their discussion. Rick Flag Sr. wanted information, but the trade-off is that Lex Luthor wanted to be, well, first and foremost, he wanted to get out of prison altogether. Then Rick Flag Sr. was like, no, that's not happening. You know, I can transfer you to another prison and whatever. And, you know, back against the wall, what other choices you have? Lex Luthor pretty much agrees. And Rick Flag Sr. Confirms when he's talking to, is it Sasha? That, yes, he's going to be transferred to another prison. So that's planting the seeds for Lex Luthor. Not only transferred, but they're going to be working with Lex Luthor. And so that's planting the seeds moving forward for this team up in 2 years when we get Man of Tomorrow. I thought it was perfect. Perfectly done. That's all. I mean, we don't need a whole thesis, you know, a 12-page essay on why Lex Luthor is teaming up with Superman. That is perfect to me. You know, good segue. And so, anyways, we travel back to Argus. Chris's brother brings Harcourt there. A little tidbit that I missed, that I failed to mention. When they went through the portal, they opened the portal at Vigilante's house. And in his basement, he has all this seized money and cocaine that he got from criminals that he vanquished. And he doesn't turn it in to the police because he believes the police are crooked. So he has millions of dollars just locked up in this basement. And Adebayo was like, wait, you were just broke. You just borrowed money from me the other day. Like, yeah, I don't touch this money. This is blood money, you know? And so, but everybody else is like grabbing and stuffing it in their pants. But also in there is cocaine and stuff like that. So when they open up the portal, it causes that little sonic boom, and the cocaine, the dust gets all over them. And so when we fast forward to where we at right now, where our Harcourt goes to Argus, the drug dog picks it up. So now she gets apprehended. As she's being apprehended, Chris walks in. And Chris walks in and sees her, and he immediately knows that's the Harcourt that he's in love with. That's the Harcourt from their actual reality. And so they have a conversation, and if finally we get a little breakthrough. And once again, man, Jennifer Holland, I know a lot of people rag on her because she's James Gunn's wife in real life, and they treat this as a nepotism thing while she got this role. Man, that woman can act. You can miss me with all that. She can act. She act the mess out of this scene. I mean, the emotion, her holding back the fact she just cannot bring herself to openly admit that she loves Chris. But she does. At the same time that she does it. It was a way that she did. She confessed without confessing. You know, when Chris said, I love you, and she pulled a Han Solo and was like, yeah, I know. And but the way she delivered it, and the way the emotion that was coming off of her, it was that I know is I love you too. You know, it was like, yeah, I love you even more. You know, it's just the way she did it. It was beautifully done. Still can't verbally say it. I guess they're saving that for the last episode or whatever. It so it could be a more powerful moment. But it was powerful right here. But Chris is telling her that, look, everything's perfect here. I'm with a version of you that actually loves me. I have my brother. I have my father. I'm a hero and blah blah blah. Everything's perfect here. And so she gets released. They go into Argus offices, and around this time, simultaneously, we have Adebayo, as we had left off prior. She's taking her walk through the neighborhood. This, which this don't have to be an alternate as a black man. I can confirm that this does not have to be an alternate reality for this to happen. But this happened here where she's walking through the neighborhood and everybody's staring. Like, what is that? Oh my God, it's a black. It's not supposed to be funny, especially for me, but for some strange reason it was. And it's a black, and everybody is converging in on her, and she's running. And as she's running through, and you see all these white people just pouring out, and even Chris' brother, who was pulling up to return to the house, she starts running. Meanwhile, back at the house, Chris's dad returned. Economos is trying to hide, but Chris's dad finds him and starts to beat him up or whatever. And so he's found out. Vigilante, I had skipped over this part. He did find himself. He found the alternate version of himself, and they're both goofy, silly, and stupid, and they're talking and discussing, and they have absolutely everything in common except for one thing: Peacemaker. And our vigilante says that Peacemaker is his best friend, whereas the vigilante of that universe, that's his sworn enemy. That's his arch enemy. And we start to get it all together at the same time. And then Chris, he's in the office, he see the flag, the American flag. But all American flags were always rolled up. You never saw the whole stars and stripes. You saw the stripes, you never saw the stars. So he walks over to the flag. Just after our Harcourt told him, don't you find something funny about this place? There's no people of color here, and it was a good setup for her because it shows how intelligent she is, because she was always observant. When she, on the ride to Argus, she was looking at the people and how everybody was acting and who was just walking around, and she had that look on her face like, this ain't right. This don't look right. And so she tells Chris, like, this ain't right. There's no people of color here. And he picks up the flag and unrolls the little flag. And where the stars are supposed to be, we get a swastika. And it was confirmed that this was a Nazi-ran universe where I guess the Nazis won. And so then they took over the world. And Harcourt tells him that, this is the perfect world that you want. This is where you want it to be. And so this all confirmed that what everybody was thinking, that this was not a normal place to be. And that's how the episode pretty much ends. This was an awesome episode because we're steamrolling to the season finale. I think 2 episodes remain, and there's a lot here. It's a lot here. It took a while to get here, I will say. Maybe a little too long to get to this point, but we did get here. But it looks like we're steamrolling to an exciting end to this season. I'm excited. Next week's episode, at least the trailer for it, it looks like we're gonna have another surprise. They didn't really show this big guy here that's supposed to be coming after Peacemaker. it's going to be interesting. I'll just put it like that. This is going to be really, really interesting, and I am super excited. This was a good episode. Good to see Nicholas Hoult reprise the role of Lex Luthor, and what more we have in store for that character. This is good stuff, man. I love world building, and this is what James Gunn is doing. He is building a world. In this case, a multiverse, and I am here for it, man. This is exciting stuff. You would think this is a singular story, even though there is a singular story here, a main story that you're following, but on the outskirts, you have all this other stuff going on, and that's what makes comics so exciting. That's what I loved about reading comics growing up. The little side quests and stuff like that, the little issues that you don't need to read to follow the main storyline that's going on, but it helps. And this is that. Now, my only pushback is there are those who just watched movies. That Marvel has that same problem. Marvel movies, people just go to watch Marvel movies. Half of them don't have Disney Plus, so they didn't watch WandaVision. They didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki and all that other good stuff. They didn't watch that, so they weren't really understanding what was going. Like Miss Marvel, not too many people watch Miss Marvel, and so when the Marvels came out and you had this girl who was fighting alongside of Captain Marvel, you're like, who is she? And the same thing with Photon. She was from WandaVision, so you're like, who is she? You had to watch the TV shows to know who these characters were. And a lot of people were kind of thrown off by that. And I think that's why, well, at least one of the reasons why Marvel is suffering right now. DC, as much as I enjoy this, because I follow this stuff because I love it, for one, and then I do this for two, but I'm just a fan. Mostly I'm a fan. Even if I wasn't doing this show, I would be deeply entrenched in this material, TV and films. So I would do it, but not everybody's like me. And that's the only thing that I have a pushback on, that when we finally get a full expansion of this world that James Gunn is building, a lot of people will be lost. And the product will suffer from that because not a lot of people will go see it. And because they're going to be lost, they're not going to know what's going on, and they're going to think it's stupid when it's really not dumb. You just have to know everything that took place prior. But this was a good episode, really good episode, a good setup for the rest of the season, and a good setup for the rest of the DCU. But I would like to know, what did you think of episode 6 of Peacemaker season 2? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Were you shocked by the cameo? And are you expecting any more cameos for the rest of this season? I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Ignorance is Chris. Oh boy, can't wait for next week. I'll see you then. Want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.